I don't understand playing for fun. I don't understand that concept. I play to win. He's like, yo, you play ping pong? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, yeah, you should come over. We should play ping pong. I'm like, brother, I will smash you.
Would send their children to live with the Bedouins in the desert. There is a level of like psychological, neurological growth that's happening with the attachment of a mother, the attachment of a father. And
I felt like the more I achieve, the more I have to lose. Like going back to saying like, oh, the moment you have a child, you have signed up.
Roll Back Home is hands down one of my favorite podcasts.
Islamic reminders and comedy? How does that work?
Dude, 1 minute I'm laughing, the next minute I'm rethinking my whole relationship with Allah.
I usually only listen to lectures, but this is a nice way to relax.
It feels like you're just chilling with your friends and reflecting on the deen.
You actually learn a lot too. It's way more than just jokes.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
So we're live.
we are live. Bismillah.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
Season 2, episode
2. You feel me?
Sir.
Yes, sir. This is titled Early Childhood and Loss.
Yeah.
That was underwhelming.
Yeah.
Random topic for the day. Just get us started.
You have something in mind?
Yes. Competitiveness.
Oh, wow.
Is that a word? Like, first of all, let's get, because I remember last episode you said discombobulated, and honestly, I've been discombobulated all week trying to figure out if you use it in the right context.
No, I'm not discombobulated.
You said discombobulated.
Oh, no.
Around, you said
we're talking about...
yeah, doing tawaf. You said I discombobulated around the Kaaba.
I did not say discombobulated. If I did, then it's definitely wrong.
No, dead ass. Like, what else did you say? Combobulated?
No, it was...
Circumbobulated. Yeah, that sounds just as wild.
Did you ever look it up?
No. I just think it was a funnier thing to assume you were wrong.
Gosh. I haven't had a chance to look it up either.
But I saw your eyes light up when I said competitiveness.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about that yesterday. I was talking to someone about like just being competitive and then picking up golf.
Wait, what kind of golf? Mini golf? Miniature golf?
No, like
real golf?
Yeah, real golf.
Oh,
right?
white man's golf?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah,
We've
rich
never
man's
taken you-
golf. Rich man sports.
How much does this hobby cost?
Well, if you're buying like a set of golf clubs, the set could run you $700, $800 potentially, just depending. And then if you're constantly going to golf courses, it depends on how nice the golf course is, the range, etc. But honestly, it's not that expensive. But if you're going to high-end golf courses, like
Monterey.
if you become good, let's put it that way, you're dropping money. If you become good, you're dropping money. Like sometimes you can't even go to a golf course unless you're a member, and the annual membership is like $50K.
Oh yeah, I saw one in Monterey. I asked, me and my wife, we went on a bike tour, like through Monterey, the trails and stuff. $90K
Wow.
annual fee and $90K to golf
Crazy.
at this.
Yeah, and you're
specific
probably
place.
still paying to play. Like I wouldn't, But yeah, so golf, the reason I mentioned golf is because literally just this past weekend for like 2-3 hours in the morning, I went with a few guys to a golf course and it was competitive, just generally speaking. So it doesn't matter what sport or thing you put me in.
Yeah.
I have a level of just wanting to compete at whatever it is. Even if I've never tried the sport in my life and this person has played for the last 6 years, I still have this feeling like
that you can beat him.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I have a problem with being competitive too. I will not involve myself in anything I don't think I can win. Because my ego's in the way.
Really?
Yeah, like if some, I don't understand playing for fun. I don't understand that concept. I play to win. And if I can't win, there's no reason of playing. I, for example, we all play pool. I'm not there to make friends, like at all. In fact, if I don't leave with less friends, I didn't play well enough. Like genuinely, like I go in there. I'm here to make enemies, bro. I'm here to just put my name. I want you to go home hating me. That's how I know I did something. You know what I mean? And so that's why I'm very particular with what sports and what activities I play in, because if you tell me to play basketball, I know I can't play basketball.
I see.
So I'm not gonna be like, yeah, let's play. No, sir. Ping pong.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. This is how I know I got this guy that I work with. He's like, yo, you play ping pong? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, yeah, you should come over. We should play ping pong. I'm like, brother, I will smash you. Like I will, like we just went from like just like being cordial, nice friends to me threatening to like violate him in his own home. You know what I mean? Like that's how bad it got. And he was like, okay, I guess. I mean, I was gonna invite you in for tea too. I was like, brother, skip the tea, you know. And then he asked me, this is how I knew I got him. He's like, you know how to spin the ball? I'm like, boy, you's over. Like that's ABC. You know what I'm saying? Think about that. You don't know how to spin the ball. It's a wrap. So, but you know how I knew it got bad? I just stopped playing checkers with my wife. Right. So, you know, we go to coffee shops. You might see us drinking some Adani chai. Shout out to Kamaria.
Shout out to Kamaria.
Shout out
Kamaria,
to,
you should hit up his wife because this Adani chai is fire.
Fire. Yeah. Oh, she makes fire. Adani chai too. So we go there and we just bring the little, you know, the chess/checkerboard. And so we're playing checkers. And I'm not emotionally intelligent. You know what I'm saying? I don't realize you're supposed to let your wife win sometimes. And I'm like 8 games in, killing her. I'm killing her, bro. No chance. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know, like I remember 8 games
not even a 7-0 shutout.
No. Huh? What do you mean 7-0?
Like you beat her 7 times in a row. Khalas,
No. I was like, I'm not leaving until I get double figures. So after the 8 games, she looked at me. She's like, you know, you never let me win. And I'm not emotionally intelligent. So she's like, you never let me win. I'm like, I know, right? Bam, bam, bam. I like it. I was like, that's another one. You know, you didn't see the diagonal. You know what I'm saying? Just, that's why I'm like, maybe there's no cure for this. But I mean, I love her. I just don't know if I love her more than winning. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my, you know, it's tough, man.
For sure. I mean, it's probably going to be tough. People are probably going to judge you for the fact that you play checkers instead of chess. I've always heard that chess is the thing. I've never played either, really.
Listen, you play chess. I play checkers because it's easier. Okay.
I don't play either.
I just learned how to play chess, I would say, as of 4 days ago. Very, very like basic rules. And it's going good. It's just so like it's not one of those games where you enjoy. It's more of those games where you're super locked in. And I like passive games as well. So like if I'm at a coffee shop, I like to be passive. I like to be like boom, and then like drink tea and talk and what's up. But chess is like you're locked in because like there's 4 different things that could happen. You're like preparing for the worst case scenario. I'm gonna sacrifice this guy because I can get this person in 3 moves. You know what I mean?
No,
like, just
that's
crazy
too much.
Yeah, it's like, bro, this like I just worked 5 days this week. You know, I'm 6th day. I'm like, I'm gonna get this rook. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
like I'll put it this way: I'm such a noob. I still call the horsey the horse, the horsey. You know, I you know.
What is it called? The knight?
The knight, yeah. And the rook, I used to call it the castle. Like, that's how, like, I'm like, yo, the castle, the horsey moves like in an L. I don't know. Real niggas don't know that horsey moves in an L shape. You know what I mean? Anyways, that's my problem with competitiveness. But let's start the episode. Episode 2, Early Childhood and Loss. And we're picking up where we left off last time. And talk about the Prophet ﷺ in the care of Halima.
Yeah, I think right off the bat, I've met quite a few people that I would say are friends, acquaintances, or what have you, and they've lost one parent, or they've lost 2 parents, they've lost loved ones, siblings, and subhanAllah, you can see how much it affects them. Right? Like anyone listening or watching, if you've lost a loved one, you understand how much it affects you. And even if it wasn't someone who was immediately related to you, if you've witnessed your friend lose someone that is immediately attached to them, whether their mother, their father, their sibling, you can see the toll it takes on them, right? And then in those moments, a person feels lonely. They feel like no one can understand their pain. And how can they can't even think of how can I even survive this pain, right? Like, and so then to listen to the story of the Prophet ﷺ and how he grew up, it almost gives this sense of comfort to say, oh, subhanAllah, like the most beloved person to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also went through these things, right? And almost gives you a sense of like, okay, it's like maybe in somehow, some way, some shape, some form, I'm actually closer to the lifestyle of the Prophet ﷺ than maybe even other people are, for example, right?
Yeah. Are you getting at the fact that he lost both his parents, not just one?
Yeah.
His father before he was even born,
Mm-hmm.
and then his mother at the age of 6.
6.
So, but yeah, expand on that. Like, for me, and then he went to the care of
Halima.
no, before that. Oh, he was so just go through the timeline with me.
So
His father dies.
yeah, Prophet Prophet's father passes away before he was born.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Prophet was born, and there was a culture and a tradition amongst Quraysh where the elite, right, would send their children to live with the Bedouins in the desert for multiple reasons, right? And only the elite and the noblemen can afford that, right? To send their children at a very young age to live with people they quite frankly don't even know for multiple reasons. One was to save them from any evil within their own community. They're trying to shelter them from any, whether it's disease, whether it's bad culture, bad ethics, right? Because that plagues every society. So that's one, protect them from that. Number two, there was this aspect of learning and wanting them to be super fluent in Arabic, and the Bedouins were known to be amazing in their like eloquency when it came to Arabic. And I forgot there was also another reason as to why.
To not so that the city seems like a luxury afterwards.
Yes, to essentially make them have tough skin.
Tough skin, yeah. So a tougher upbringing means that like you can bear more down the road.
Yes.
Right? You're not a pampered child.
And you know what's crazy? Guess how much like if you want to try to like make sense of it to nowadays, what would you think of?
Boarding school.
Boarding school.
Yeah.
Right? Dude, I've seen boarding schools like on YouTube videos or what have you, and these millionaire, billionaire kids go to these boarding schools, right? Easily, they're dropping $15,000 a month for these boarding schools for their children to go to. Why?
To essentially save them from the same things.
See what I'm saying? Like, subhanAllah, there is a level of like care and wisdom that people try to put in, you know, when they're thinking about their children in the future and what they're going to do. And so it's not that crazy to think about that that's what they used to do back then as well, you know?
But being given up by your parents, like, I don't know, like, there's twofold here. Like, one, some people might be listening to this and saying, like, you know, identifying with the struggle of the Prophet ﷺ of not having parents. Yeah. And then there's people who might be listening to this who have issues with their parents. And they're like, I would have taken that route. Yeah. Right? It's the same thing like when a parent has issues with their children and they're like, man, I wish like maybe if I didn't have a child, I wouldn't have this issue. Right? So subhanAllah, it's like grass is always greener, but you can't have something beautiful and not have it come with problems too. You buy a beautiful car, eventually it's gonna go in for maintenance. You buy a beautiful house, eventually you're either paying insurance or some fires like in LA that happen. So everything comes at a cost. I remember, subhanAllah, you told me this when you had a daughter, and you mentioned to me the day you have a child, you have signed up to lose that child. And I was like, that is so scary. Just imagine that, because I think the reason we even got to that topic is we're talking about, you know, these kids in Palestine and how the parents were like so strong, understanding like, hey, you know, Allah take us until you're pleased, right? You know. But subhanAllah, I had very different desires when I was young. I didn't want to go to boarding school, but this is my earliest dream I can think of. You remember when Angelina was just adopting African kids? That was my biggest dream, dude. Like, I wasn't trying to escape. Like, alhamdulillah, I didn't come from a bad household, but I was, dude, to live with some rich white lady. Like, dude, you telling me, like, a Somali household, that's where I was. Like, I'm bananas and rice.
What are
right? What are ya? Bananas and rice and Tomb Raider. Like, bro, I'm going with Tomb Raider. You know, like I want to see what she does at her house. You know, but I just remember seeing all them African kids that she was adopting. I'm like, it could have been me. But it's fine. And then like the whole toughening up your kids. Like, I mean, I grew up very, very
privileged,
sheltered, and privileged. Okay. That came out pretty fast. Sheltered, privileged. And then I look at like people who like Khabib, for example, who literally as a 7-year-old was wrestling a bear.
Yeah, that was his pet. He had a pet bear.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Hey.
It doesn't even need to go that far back. Like, you visited Somalia,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you said you lived in the village area and what have you, or like you stayed there, right?
3-4 nights. I was just, when the sun goes down, lights go down.
Exactly. Yeah. You've seen the kids out there and like the responsibilities they hold.
Oh,
and
for sure.
So it's like, it's not even that. Even if we just go back to our own grassroots and like our family back home, the 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old is nothing compared to the 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old here. The 16-year-old there is nothing compared to the 16-year-old here. It's changing a little bit with social media, right? But that's just the reality. Back then, you'll have a 7-year-old taking care of kids, and you can't do the same over here necessarily. You can't have a 15, 16, 17-year-old taking care of kids, depending on their upbringing, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like their level of maturity and responsibility and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just remember like we don't have it tough. Like I remember there's one guy on social media was like, I'm kind of broke. So like my 4-year-old turning 5. So we just didn't tell him. That's funny. Like I'm just like looking at it.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's just like the sacrifices that like we make versus like sacrifices that like they did back in the day, or places where real sacrifice. We're just like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that one. So you reminded me. So like when the Prophet ﷺ went with Halima, right? One of the reasons was because actually the whole aspect of toughening up was to get him away from like his relatives, because relatives spoil the children, grandparents spoil the children, and so on and so forth. So it's even to say that sometimes it's our own families that actually cause the most harm to our children in their young age, because they spoil them. Like,
and mind you, it wasn't his parents, because the parents typically don't spoil the children as much as who?
The grandfather, the uncles,
the aunts, extended family. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk through like what this whole idea of being sent away.
Yeah. So like it was a thing, right? So every year, the women from the desert, the Bedou, any of the women who had children, who bore children, means they're able to breastfeed.
Yes.
So they come into the city, and they now begin to knock on doors, and essentially to any women who have, from the noble and the rich that have children, to say, hey, we're offering our service.
Yeah. Send your kid back with us.
Yep.
We'll raise them to be tough dudes, right? And then we'll bring them back at like probably the age of 2, 3, 4. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Bring them back when like they're a little bit more mature, and you get what you wanted. We're essentially the boarding school.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
And so with the Prophet Sallam, from what I understand, it was a complication because he wasn't coming from money.
He's technically coming from a noble lineage.
But there's no one to pay for him since his father passed away. Okay.
Yeah, and his grandfather has like 10, 12 kids, and they have their kids.
Yeah.
So it's like they knew they weren't going to be getting money.
Like a lot of money.
Yeah.
So they avoided what they called the orphan child. And they eventually felt bad that everyone else was going back with kids. And Halima at the time was like to her husband, I don't want to go back without someone. So let's just take the orphan child. Yeah.
So the husband tells her, let's just take the orphan child.
No, he mentioned. Okay.
Yeah. Like maybe we'll be blessed for the sake of taking one of the orphan children, essentially. So his thought process was to say like, hey, hey, it's an orphan child. Like maybe we can, get some good deeds, essentially, kind of type thing.
Because they still believed in God.
Yeah.
They still believed in God. They worshipped idols as like intercessors.
Yeah. So then eventually they come up with that. Halima ends up having and taking the Prophet ﷺ, and the moment, this is Halima saying that essentially the moment we took the Prophet ﷺ, we noticed blessings in everything that we were doing. So even the beast that we were riding, going back to the village, all of a sudden had a more pep in its step, felt stronger, right?
I see.
As soon as they went into their home area, they only had one, I believe it was a cow, or I think one sheep that didn't have milk. But the moment Prophet ﷺ stepped into the area, all of a sudden it was just full The udders were just full of milk, right?
Subhanallah.
So she was just saying she was noticing all these different things. So subhanallah, what ends up happening is now it's time to go back and give the children back to their parents. And at this point, Prophet ﷺ, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and that's typically when they give them back. But Halima in that time had noticed so many things going good after good, like just she's being blessed. So she was telling the Prophet ﷺ's mother, like, hey, just leave him with me, you know, I'll take care of him. We want to make sure that, you know, he's you know, that he stays away from any of like the diseases in the city and yada yada yada, right?
Yeah.
Essentially trying to convince her
To keep him.
Yeah. So his mom, Amina's like, oh my, like she really cares about him and so on and so forth. So she's like, sure,
Send him back
Yeah.
temporarily for another
exactly.
another X amount of years.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
And he comes back. And then when does his mom pass away?
She passes away when Prophet ﷺ was 6. And right before that, at the age of 4, which is huge, the Prophet ﷺ actually had open heart surgery at 4.
Oh, yes.
So Angel Jibreel, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends Angel Jibreel to literally open the chest of the Prophet ﷺ, take out his heart, and remove a sliver of like black, which was essentially what the shaitan uses to whisper to us. And that was a means of cleansing the Prophet ﷺ from anything that shaitan could do to him, right? And we believe this wholeheartedly. It's mentioned in the Quran, it's referenced in the Quran, it's mentioned in ahadith. Like this isn't something that any mashayikh are like, oh, if, ands, or buts about it. And there was even a scar, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have easily not had a scar show up on the chest of the Prophet ﷺ, but it's to show like, no, this was actually physical. This was no like, oh, spiritual type cleansing or what have you, right?
Oh, I see.
That was a crazy story. Like that in and of itself is like an amazing story to look into. So if you're interested in learning more and understanding more like how that happened, just YouTube the opening of the Prophet ﷺ's chest and the story. And then at 6, when that happened, Halima, because whoever was around the other kids witnessed what was essentially happening, and they ran out of fear. And then Halima comes and she sees the Prophet ﷺ and he's just pale, not saying anything, right? That obviously gave her a scare. She brought him back to his mom. At 6, they go to Medina because the Prophet ﷺ's mom has relatives from Medina. If not, she is from Medina. Crazy connection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of planners, right? At such a young age. And she ends up dying in that area a few months later. Just
on the route to Medina.
I believe so. I forgot if it was not on the route to Medina. I believe she was there for some time.
Oh, and
then I believe it was either on the way back or while she was there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And then when she passed away, he was under the care of his grandfather.
Yep, Abdul Muttalib, which we talked about.
Yeah,
the one with about the elephant story. You know, that
super big man of honor, mashallah. And do you think his life was harder as an orphan, or do you think it was in the sense of like getting what you? Because I feel like. Do you think a child's more behaved under their parents or like their extended family?
I don't know, man. There's so much to the psychology of a human being and what like different things that happen and how it impacts everyone differently.
Yeah.
For some children, maybe they become rebels because of the trauma that they went through.
That's me. That's what I'm saying. Like for me, you drop me off at my auntie's house, all home training goes out the window. Like I'm turning up in here because this is a break from the rules in my eyes.
Yeah.
You know, and if I was an orphan, I'm playing that orphan card every time. You know what I mean? Like, oh, kids, it's time to go to bed. That's crazy because my parents been sleeping for years. Right? Like I'm staying out watching TV. I would play that card to get what I wanted. I feel like I'd be a rebel.
Yeah.
Like at least as a young age, but I can't see the other extreme.
Do you remember the thing that Ashik did? Remember, Ashik lost his father.
He did that to me, bro.
Say that story.
I can't remember exactly how he did it, but because I didn't know that he had lost his father.
Yeah.
And I said something along the lines of, what did I say?
I'm trying to remember.
I said something like, I don't know. I mentioned something so casually, like, like, oh, I haven't spoken to my dad in a while. I'm gonna go visit my dad. He goes, yeah, I haven't spoken to my dad in a while too. And then everyone started laughing. I'm like, so then go visit your dad, buddy. Like in my mind, I was like, you tripping? Like, I ain't visit my dad in a few weeks. I wanted to go visit, get a cup of coffee. And he said the same thing. I'm like, why is that so funny? Like, I thought they were playing a prank on me, and then I figured out, oh, yeah, I like how his dad passed away. But yeah, it's been some time. So he's one of those guys that yeah, I don't know how he does it, bro.
Yeah, I know, and I think you know him. I'm not gonna mention his name, but wallahi, since I was a kid, since I came to Sacramento, since I was, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, when I met him, and I knew he had lost his mother, his father, and I believe even his sister in a car accident.
Oh.
One of our community members.
Do I know this person?
Yeah, I think you know him.
Is he a young guy?
He's our age.
What, dude?
Yeah, he's our age. And
wow,
the amount of respect and love that I had for him instantaneously, because I was just like, I cannot imagine. That's it. And raised under the care of his grandmother. I just, subhanAllah, I don't know. Even till now, it hurts even just thinking about it. If you think about it, like back in the day, right? Like you have a whole village and a community that's gonna raise you, right? And even for me, like God forbid that I did lose my mom and my dad in a circumstance like that. I have more than 10 brothers and sisters. The amount of cousins and uncles, and so like the amount of support I would have had is insane. He doesn't even have that. His grandmother, and she's old. Like,
so he was left with just one grandmother.
Just his grandmother, yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, if anyone is like connected to Allah, like if anyone has this relationship with Allah that I would never be able to understand, it's him.
Does he even say that this happened? Or
no, dude,
no one knows?
Quiet brother to himself, like a, my God, subhanAllah. Yeah, it's just, yeah.
You got to tell me off air who this is.
Yeah,
I didn't figure this out, but that's
may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like give him the best of this dunya and the next.
I mean, that's a tough thing because I mean we went through the main points I wanted to go through this podcast anyway, but I mean just talking about the toughness of growing up without some sort of security.
Yeah.
You know, like, cause my parents for the longest time is something to hold on to. Like even now, like me and my wife talk, like I'm like, yo, if I'm ever like down bad, I'm just going back to Pop's house. Like that, I don't know anything else. But there's a sense of like that security. Like I'm just gonna go back to that. And like 2 times we really like thought like, yo, it's getting tougher and tougher out here. You know, cause we spent some time there because we lived in my dad's house for some time, and then we tried the whole, you know, moving out thing, but I always had a feeling that I had some net safety in there, right?
Yeah.
But to just grow up not having a net, not having something tangible to hold on to, someone to call, like, I don't know. Like that's a scary thing.
And I think sometimes I'm almost jealous of, again, I can only imagine that connection and relationship that person may have with Allah. If you think of Ibrahim alayhi salam, isolated, the best moments of his life was when he was down and had nobody. Why? Because he had Allah. Even as a child being catapulted into the fire, right? And his own dad is against him. Yusuf alayhi salam, when his siblings threw him in a well, and now he's completely separated from everything and everyone he knows. And yet that was the closest he was to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like that's where, you know what I mean? Like then you look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then you look at, and so ultimately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only knows their, you know, how each of these individuals or children take this loss. But you know, sometimes what I think is of as well as like, how traumatized can a 3-year-old really be losing their mom and dad?
Yeah,
right?
Losing it at like 17 or like 20 something, that's like, oh, that's a world.
But here's the thing.
shaker,
So
right?
again, it's so, and that's why I leave the judgment and I leave the assessment to Allah, because even at 3 years old, there is a level of like psychological, neurological growth that's happening with the attachment of a mother, the attachment of a father, and the care that a mother can only give, the care that a father can only give, that's going to have long-term effects. But then there's also a level of pain that a 17, 18-year-old has
that the 3-year-old wouldn't experience.
because they had all these memories, these
Yeah.
connections, and there is a level of pain that's also difficult for maybe them to understand because they don't even have that. And that's a pain in and of itself, the fact that they can't have those memories. Like,
yeah, it's almost like being like, this sounds crazy. Dude, my analogies are not on point these days, right? Like the last podcast, I talk about like, you know, taking a dump in your car and stuff. You remember that stupid analogy I gave? I was like, oh man, like,
yeah.
it was, you know, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to the last episode. Terrible example. But yeah, I agree. It's crazy. But like, imagine being born with no legs, and then or being 25 and going to a car accident and losing your legs.
Right.
So you never knew you never had the ability to walk versus having been able to, and now you can't. That's tough, subhanAllah. And I also listened to a couple of lectures like in the last few weeks where. Actually, it's in Surah Al-Alaq, where he mentions, this is tafsir, the human becomes less wary of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because when they start to feel self-sufficient. So the bigger they get in terms of, I just landed this new job, I just graduated, I got this new degree, they feel less dependent on Allah. But the funny thing is, like, we're all taking shelter under a spider's web. In the sense, we're all vulnerable.
Yeah.
But we forget that.
Right.
And the people who lose everything are the only ones who actually get to be reminded of that every day when they wake up and they're like, I have nothing to hold on to. I am really under the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think the reason why we kind of are jealous of that, the reason why we're kind of jealous of that is because we don't know how it feels to be that reliant on Allah until that's all we have. Yeah. And I had a really weird moment in the last maybe 3-4 years where I was addicted to being at rock bottom. Because for 2 reasons. One, you can't hurt me anymore. Like I'm down here. Like I'm down bad. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like I can be hurt more.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you laughing right now. That was perfect timing. That's insane. But like,
because when you speak,
yeah,
or anyone, honestly, and I don't know, it's a good thing or bad thing, but my imagination, I just start to actually.
What do you think? I'm in a well.
No, I start to picture these things like rock bottom, and then thinking like someone falling and like joining you, and like how excited you'd be.
That's so
just,
weird.
These crazy thoughts just come into my head of just
just any thought of ever trying to go down the counseling route for you. Just steer clear because you're not the guy, you know. But I was like I like man, like I've had nights where like stand up wasn't going good. I've had nights where I'm at odds with my parents. You know, I'm having problems. I lost my job at one point. You know, it was all bad. It's crazy. It's crazy. Why are you laughing right now?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, dude, it was all bad, right? And
we can laugh at it because that was in the past. Now, you know.
Yeah, but I don't mind. I can laugh at it. I don't think you're allowed to laugh at it. Yeah, that's insane. But okay. The point is, I felt like I was like, like like when you're free falling, you're like scared.
Yeah.
But then finally, like if something catches you, like
the relief,
the relief of just being like, okay, this is as bad as it gets. Okay, it's time to like make a house here, like because I'm good, you know.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why did you feel like it couldn't get worse than that?
It could have definitely gotten worse.
Okay.
But I guess I was hoping it wouldn't. I guess it could have got worse in the sense of like, because I mean, I was challenged from a lot of places: money, family, wealth, health. I was in a wheelchair at one point. I got so severely.
When was this? Was it in Qatar?
No. I mean, that definitely. But I've been in a wheelchair a few times.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like to the point, like very temporarily, like maybe a couple of days or so, where I physically couldn't walk. I'd had to be held up. You know, like my body got to that point where it was just so weak. SubhanAllah, like I was like bed rest for some time. I was like, it can't get worse than this. Like, but of course it could have.
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I could have lost my mind. I could have actually lost my parents instead of just being at
Exactly.
odds with them. I could have
Yeah.
lost my parents, you know.
Yeah.
I could have lost all ability to work as opposed to just losing that one job,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So there was so much more, but I guess my mind could only handle that, and I felt I was at my worst.
Right. But the reason I asked that question is anyone listening or watching, if you're really at that rock bottom right now, I want you to understand that with all of that being said, and I don't know what you're going through, that, and I'm just going to be just straight frank, it could be worse.
You said straight frank.
I'm going to be frank. I'm going to be, because I was going to say I'm going to be frank with you. I'm
And
going
then
to be straight with you. I'm going to
Okay.
be straight frank with
Okay.
you.
Well, as opposed to
Frank and straight.
no, as opposed to gay Frank, but that's fine.
Right? No. And it, again, because I don't have a personal connection with whoever is watching or listening, it's just to say that the Prophet ﷺ told us, when it comes to your deen, look at the people who are above you. When it comes to your worldly affairs, look at those who are below you. And sometimes it's hard to do that, but you, like, using your experience and your story as to say, like, I get it. When you're in those moments, sometimes you can't think of anything worse than it. But maybe when you hear it from someone who's been there, like you have been in that place, is to say, look, man, I could have lost my mom. It could have been worse. And maybe someone listening is realizing that, hey, yes, it's bad for me right now, but it could even be worse than what it is. And so, alhamdulillah, that it's not, you know?
Yeah. Well, okay. And the other reason why I felt like it was nice to be at rock bottom was because I felt like the more I achieved, the more I have to lose. Like going back to saying like, oh, the moment you have a child, you have signed up to lose that child. And I didn't want that. So it's almost like I don't want to achieve anything because I know it's going to be taken away from me, and I don't want to be tested with it.
The feeling of it the feeling of that thing being taken away from you
Stops me from wanting to get it.
because the pain would be severe.
Too much,
Yeah.
right? Like, maybe I'm not asking you this personally, but just as a general question, would you rather the pain of losing a child or to have never had a child at all?
I wouldn't know because I've never lost a child.
Yeah, that's why I'm not asking you specifically.
right,
but
yeah.
do you think that if you spoke to somebody who lost
Right.
a child, would they have wanted to have been a parent if they knew that?
I think so.
Really?
Because I know people who have lost children and then they have kids again. That's a choice to now have another kid, knowing that you can lose them.
But do you think that they're thinking, ain't no way it's happening twice? Do you think?
I don't think so. No, if anything, you're probably more paranoid. You're probably more afraid that if this happens again, I'm not going to be able to survive. Right? Like you're even more afraid to take that step. And yet they do, because the level of joy that, subhanAllah, that great. And again, as human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of creators, right? Like He is the creator. He is a sustainer. He understands the human psychology. He understands our ability to move on and heal and not forget, but be able to live on with pain, right? So subhanAllah, the way we were created was, yes, it's painful and so on and so forth, but we managed to move on.
Yeah. I think the saying that I thought of was, it's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. I think that's...
Yeah.
I think that has to do mostly with heartbreak stuff, but like just in general, it could be anything. I feel like, and this is, I'm just, wanting to run this last thing by you, but I feel less able to let go of this life in a sense. Like I feel more attached to it because I feel like I've invested more into it. 5 years ago, I could have told you, yeah, bro, I'm kind of, if you pluck me right now, I'm cool. Because I haven't had, I didn't invest myself into anything. But now I feel like I put myself into too many things.
Yeah.
That I would like to see the fruits of my labor. I would like to see what it is I invested in. Because I feel like I'm too tangled up in this place.
I get you.
And I don't know, for example, how does somebody build a beautiful business from the ground up, knowing they could die 3 days after grand opening?
Yeah, I hear you. But why are you, for that person building that business, why are you building that business? Why are you doing what you're doing?
Take care of your family.
Right?
So let's say you don't even achieve that.
But
or at least you don't get to achieve that. You may be rewarded for the intention of doing so, But that's what I'm saying. Like my mind's not in the right place. I'm really trying to do it. Right?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. I mean, so then why get up? Like, why wake up from your sleep if that's the case? Why do anything at all if that's the case?
Keep going.
Just as simple as that. Like, literally, why live life at all if ultimately you may not see any fruits of any labor? Why do you go to work?
Well, I know that the fruits of labor, I guess, was like in 3 weeks.
But you might die before that.
Very true, but I only lost 3 weeks. Versus pouring yourself into a lifelong, let's say, I don't know, maybe.
I get it, but your initial thing was to say the reason you are afraid of the akhirah, for example, the afterlife, is because you haven't prepared for it. Mm-hmm. And you prepared for the dunya more. What I'm saying is no. Because if you're doing it for the right reason, then the whole time you're preparing for the akhirah. So why would you ever be afraid to leave? Because ultimately, your reward is in the akhirah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when you're gone, you're gone. You're not going to feel this sense of, oh man, I almost opened my business. You're gone, brother. That's going to be the least of your worries. Your worries is going to be, can I answer the questions in the grave? Did I do enough? Was my intention sincere enough? That I spent these last 20, 30, 40 years trying to build this business? Was it really for the sake of Allah? That's what you're going to be concerned about, not whether or not you were able to cut the ribbon. Does that make sense? Your perceived sense of loss is not going to exist when you're gone. You're gone.
Yeah.
You're afraid of something that you have no control over. So that's why I'm saying then what's the point of doing anything at all? You don't have control of it now, nor later, nor ever.
You know, man. Counseling, it may be in your horizon one day.
Hit me up 1-800.
Get laughed at.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
1-800. Let's laugh together.
Yeah, I felt like you were laughing at me as opposed to, because I don't think I was laughing.
Dude, you know what that reminded me of? Honestly, that scene with the whole autistic thing with.
Wait a minute, what?
The Chinese guy, the North Korean comedian guy, and he was being talked about how he was being touched by Down syndrome.
Bobby Lee, yeah.
That's what it was. I just couldn't. I wasn't laughing. You know what I mean? He wasn't laughing at but it was just. You said something, and the fact that you said it made me realize it, and I just couldn't get that thought out of my head.
No, you're forgiven. You're forgiven, brother. But yeah, I mean, we would. I'm down to end the episode here, and we can start.
Yeah, please follow, like, subscribe, share, join the Patreon. If there's any criticism, feedback, put it in the comments.
If you like the pod, drop the link in the group chat with your homies.
Yeah.
Let them know that you like this pod and you think it's entertaining at the least and maybe informative at most.
Yeah.
But okay, inshallah, yeah. Catch you guys on the next episode. Assalamu alaikum.